Alrighty, we are getting live. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming in. Thanks for joining the Help Network tonight in Shapeshifting, Versatility of the Utility Actor. My name is Eddie, and before we introduce our guest instructor for tonight, if you didn't know, we have a little surprise for you all. We brought out not one, but two legendary veterans in the voiceover industry for you tonight. So please give me a hand in welcoming Fred Tatasciore and Mick Wingert. All right, you can turn on your cameras, guys.
Hello.
Hello. Hi, everybody.
How's it going?
It's nice to be here. Thank you so much for having this, and thank you guys for showing up.
For sure. Thanks for having me at the last minute, too. That's fun.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to have you all. Before we hand it off to you guys, if you guys have any questions, we do have the little Q&A section on Zoom, so go ahead and post your questions there. We'll have some, if we have time at the end, we'll go ahead and do a little burst Q&A after that, but if you have any really big ones, I'll be on the lookout so we can ask them mid-lecture as well. So other than that, I'll leave it to you two.
Okay.
All righty. Hello. So, welcome. We are just trying to put together, Chip Beeman asked me to try to put together something for the webinar. I know you guys have covered a lot of things, and just remember, we're here for you guys. So if you have any questions or anything, I want to steer it in the right way. I'm sure you guys are all coming from different backgrounds and have different abilities and whatnot. Oh, can you hear me all right? Now can you hear me? Was I? Okay, there we go. All right, now I'm on. I know everybody's got like different abilities and comes from different backgrounds and all that in voice acting. One of the things I wanted to cover tonight with Mick, and why I brought him on, not only is he probably one of my best friends in the biz, but just tremendous voice actor and a really great director and teacher.
Thank you.
And so I needed someone to kind of help beat me up a little bit and show like what happens in audition process, also in the booth and, you know, working with directors. One of the big things I find a lot of actors really from the very beginning, from their start to being even big pros, I use the word, and I don't know if it's proper, but directability, being able to be directed. A lot of times we come in with this idea of what this character is, or your carefully written out improv, you know, or whatever you think you want to add to this character, and all of a sudden they say, no, just make a different choice. Do this. And I can't tell you how many times when I started, someone like Andre Romano, one of the great directors, I would make a choice or I'd do something, and she'd say, make a different choice. Or no, not that one. And I would say, I'm sorry. You know, and she's like, don't say sorry. Just make the adjustment. And I would get in my head. And it would start to interfere with the process. So I wanted to just kind of talk about, like, let's clear that out. And it is obviously it's acting, but it's also, when I say shape-shifting, I mean, like, for example,
I so rarely get to use my real voice. Mick knows this is my actual voice, but I put on the other one.
Quite annoying.
You know, and no, seriously.
But, like, you really do have to be able to change. What's wonderful about voice acting that I love all forms of theater and on camera and mocap, but what I love about voice acting is, you know, you can change your shape. You can get heavier if the guy's a little bit bigger, or there's technical things. I can kind of get a little smaller, maybe a little taller, maybe bigger, maybe you know, there's techniques with the larynx. So, yeah, so you are an artist, you're a voice actor, but also you're a voice artist, and you're working with your voice. And it's like a singer. You got to know where things sit in your throat. So some of this talk might get a little technical if you guys are into that. You know, just knowing, like, different tones you have to have. Like, for example, I was coming up with, you know, as you know, for voice acting, you got to ask the basic questions of acting. Who are you? What are you? Where are you going? What drives you? Where are you in the scene? What were you just doing? What do you want to do? These are basic actor questions. And in voice acting, it gets really funny, the checklist. It's like, are you a robot? Are you a ghost? If you were a ghost, what were you before you became a ghost or vampire? This demon, did you become a demon, or are you from the demonic realm? Are you know, there's so many questions. If you're an alien, what was your planet like? Who are you on that planet?
What do you breathe?
Right, exactly. And even down to technical things, if you're a creature, what does your mouth look like? Then it becomes question. That would affect how you sound. So pictures are very important. Also, working with your directors and your writers and your animators is really helpful because it'll give you a guidance as to like what level they want. What is the tone of the piece? Is it comedic? Are we cinema verite? Are we being ironic? Are we going against type? It's a cute little kitten, but we're going to be talking like this. You got to know where that lies, and are we being cartoony or are we being more serious? It's all in the realm. Words I came up with, and I'll stop blabbing for a minute, but talking about the larynx, this is where the instrument that we use, you're going to be thinking about things like tone, pitch. This is like what they call your voice print, a sound, rhythm. What's the pace of the character? What's the texture of your voice? What's the shape? What are your intentions? What's the inflections, dialects, regionalisms? Again, the tone. How much rasp? Which
Texture.
gives you, or how clear are you? Are we this guy? Hello. We had I always think I'm a veteran. Yeah, we had a great actor.
I'm a veteran. And that was the inimitable Paul Rugg.
Yeah,
we were doing some voiceover improv, and he's amazing.
Character. Always came up with this guy. And how clear are we? What age are we? What's the size? What volume? And then that obviously, and this is a whole other class, plays into mic techniques. If I'm going down here, I might want to ride the mic levels a little bit more. If I'm going to be loud, I might be careful of my mic, thing. So so those are all things to play with. Now, those are the effects. I would think of it like music. Your voice is like a stringed instrument, basically, with electricity. Think about, let's say you're playing guitar or bass or whatever instrument you like. What are the effects you're going to put on it? Sometimes finding characters. I heard something the other day from Bill Farmer, and I believe you guys had Brock on, wonderful actor, talked about if you do bad impressions of celebrities, you can really come up with some interesting stuff. And then if you have people in your life, do a really exact impression of your uncle.
Yeah,
People
Pat
don't
Fraley
know.
says the same thing,
Pat
too.
Fraley,
He says,
yeah.
do your celebrities terribly and do your family perfect.
I think those are fun. And study dialects. Anyway, Mick, do you have anything just in general to start with?
Well, if you're not taking notes tonight, folks, and what gold Fred is laying down, you better start right now, because I'll tell you, there's nobody that I can think of that does more utility work than Fred. And I'm not saying he's the only guy that does utility. There's lots of people who do lots of utility, and there is a cadre of people that get used this way in what we would consider like the old school style of animation voice acting. Like, it used to be that there were 50 people in town and everybody was a utility player, but that's not how casting happens anymore. So the class that you're in on is how to modulate, change your voice, and cover some of those things. And I just wanted to say too, Fred, when you were talking about placement and your voice being a musical instrument, a couple of the roles that I have come to the table playing have been voice matching. And that's when I don't teach much voice match because I do it mostly by ear, but I'll say this, like when I do teach it, and as I've been dabbling in teaching it, the concept that I tried to come up with is, and everybody's a different instrument in the orchestra. So you're going to have a better, so once you recognize what sound your voice is, you'll have a better time emulating other actors and voice matching actors that are within your section of the orchestra. Like I always say, like I do Jack Black, as everyone knows, and that's because I'm like a trombone and he's like a French horn. Like we both got this brassy sound, and it's just a matter of playing the instrument the right way to get them to sound the same. Whereas somebody like, I don't know, like a Jeff Bridges or something is an oboe.
Yeah,
and that's,
and Jeff and I, it's not that far
from my own voice
to just pull it back in the back of my throat, and all of a sudden, Walter, man, yeah, hey, man.
I mean, that's him doing the dude, but
Right, exactly.
Those are things he doesn't always. When I played him for Clue and Flynn for Disney, it's a little more straightforward, but it's
Right.
it's that kind of.
But he's in your section of the orchestra,
Right,
is what I would
the
say,
oboe.
and that
Yeah.
once you, and I'm throwing instrument names around, but
But that
like
was
once
appropriate.
you like discover I'm a string instrument, I'm a woodwind, I'm a percussion, I'm a piano, I'm brass, whatever it is that kind of defines your sound, you can then find the other actors that are more prominent than you that sit in that same section of the orchestra, and it will be so much easier for you to get a realistic voice match for those characters than because listen, if I'm matching somebody and he's not in my section, just by way of example one more time, Fred, like if Jeff Bridges is an oboe, then you as a bassoon are going to have a much better chance at sounding like an oboe than a trumpet is.
Right.
Like the trumpet I'm going to have to work harder.
Right.
I'm going to have to do more.
Now, what might be interesting, though, and this is as a note on that's a good point, is just because, now Mick has to match a harmonica, that might be really great for him. Because let's just say all of a sudden, you may not book the job as the harmonica, but all of a sudden that trumpet that's turning into a harmonica might have a whole unique sound, too.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when I get to play really, characters that people don't think are going to come out of me.
Right.
Little tiny guys like that, which is really more where my soul lives.
Everyone thinks like,
No, I'm really just a squishy duck.
but but it's in those.
It's true.
It's true.
True.
But going back to that, so it's even you can go against type. It's really good to stretch yourself, especially if that's what you want to do. I mean, we're talking about utility today. There are people who don't do that, and we have one friend that it's the joke he always makes because I think he has a huge range. But like David Sobolov, where it's like the joke is like, his agent would be like, "Oh, he's a one-trick pony, but what a trick!"
What a trick!
That voice will untie your shoes. He's so good. And he's such a great actor, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's now exploring his range and realizing he can go do this. I mean, he plays Drax so perfectly, makes me laugh every time. So, it's like, but now we bring up the word utility. That came from many of you might know, from music. So it was basically, if we had the band, we need one person who can play the chimes, the saxophone, and the harmonica, or the mandolin, just someone who can fill in whatever's needed. So for each show, guys like Mick and I are going to, one show Mick's on drums and I'm on bass. Next thing, I might be the drummer. It all changes.
Right.
And then when we talk about these utility parts, they're not the main parts. You don't get famous. It's kind of awful. Like I work one of my big.
But you can
shows,
pay off your house.
You pay off your house. Family Guy was so good to me. Family Guy and American Dad and the Cleveland Show. On one show I'll play Bono, Mark Twain, and a toilet and a cop and a whatever, and that's great but you have to be now, unless those are celebrity things. But let's just say you're cop number 2. I used to always joke about that because you get those cop number 2, cop number 3.
Mm-hmm.
I always joked with Colette. He has a name. His name is Mark Kettleman. It's like, his father was an alcoholic. It is like, he's just saying, "Come here, let's go. Catch the Spider-Man." Whatever.
That's it. That's all we need.
But you gotta. It's fun to just sort of imbue. I mean, I'm kind of kidding. You can go crazy with backstory, but I like to kind of get my brain around a backstory. What these things are is they're thumbnail sketches. They're thumbnail sketches of characters. You don't have time sometimes to just be like, well, let's see. He's cop number 2. Yes, McGillicuddy is his name. You don't have the time to go into that, but
his father spent 7 years in the Navy.
Yes,
was on assignment in the Middle East.
Yes, and then he joined the Learning Annex, and all of a sudden he's working for Red Skull. He's working for Hydra.
Hydra.
So,
the Red Skull found him at a workshop.
Poor people in Hydra.
Sumatra.
I know, exactly. It never works out for them. Why? Why do I constantly work for the Joker? I do.
Yeah,
But that's a good example though. So if you know, let's just say you have 5 characters, or 3 really is what you'd have. Let's just say it's good to know ahead of time what voice print you want so they don't sound alike. A lot of times I'll try to ask them ahead of time before going in, saying, okay, all right, that guy, I'm going to make him that guy. He's the guy who works in the, in the pharmacy. Maybe I'm going to make him kind of, what does he look like? Or, that's quality. Then there might be somebody else who's the bouncer, who might be a different guy that is he kind of steroidal? Yeah, okay, and that kind of affects how my voice will be differently.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this wonderful teacher, who's very good. And, whatever. So it could be like whatever is, so you can point out where you start to map it out. And that way you don't sound alike.
Fred, let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you for a second. I want everybody that's that's in this lecture to notice that Fred didn't just change the pitch of his voice. It wasn't just pitch, and it wasn't just placement. Like, he did do different pitches and different placement, but did you notice how his mannerisms and his body language changed? Oh, yeah. Like these, when you are called upon to play utility, it's very important to have some preconceived characters to bring to the table.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you're going to apply that to your main characters with the lines, because usually if a character scripted, he or she will speak for themselves, and you will want to adapt to the way the writer's expressing that character. But when you have to be the crowd, and you have to be like 5 people in the crowd, and you have to be, cop number 2, and you have to be Mayor so-and-so who's got 5 lines throughout the episode, like the full-bodied performance that Fred just gave is really what differentiates a modern-day utility player from somebody who just gets brought in to be series lead. And I don't mean to demean that. I mean, who doesn't want to be series lead?
Yeah,
but
all good. Yeah,
but
you're right.
But what it is that Fred came in to play 3 characters, not just do 3 voices. He wasn't just going, well, I'll do a high-pitched thing up here, and then I'll do a regular pitch thing here, and then I'll do a low-pitched thing here, and they'll all sound the same. Mm-hmm. It's different placements, it's different pitches, and it's the more you can embody that person. I mean, think about when he did the bouncer versus the teacher. The teacher was much more effusive, right? I could, in the moment when he said, or, just maybe a wonderful teacher, like I knew exactly who that was. Yeah. Versus, the guy who was like a bouncer, and he was, his whole stature changed.
Yeah, because I did 3 sets of 40s, and then we're going to do a colonic.
That's what makes the magic.
Yeah, and you can kind of make up your own monologue with these guys. And what's good is, even if you know regionalisms, find out where this is taking place. Is it New York? Possibly it might be a different, we might have to make the bouncer somebody a little bit different. Maybe give them some, study your dialects maybe. Or, those dialects really help. You know what I mean? In terms of like, oh, we'll make this guy from the Midwest. We'll make this one a Californianer, and we'll make this one from Ireland. That help, if you can do dialects. It's just if you're studying, that's a never-ending study, by the way. And,
never-ending.
And highly recommended in this this particular kind of job of shapeshifting.
Yeah. Well, language is always evolving. Always evolving.
Yeah.
And regionalisms are always evolving, especially now that we're a global community, Fred. Like,
it's not the same thing anymore.
It isn't.
Liverpool is a different place now. You bring up the physical thing. I remember when we were doing the Avengers, it used to crack me up when I'd look around the room and everybody looked kind of like their avatar of what they're playing. Like, I'm Hulk, so I always have my fist clenched and I'm standing this way. You're kind of cool. You're Tony Stark. It was just, and Thor's got his hammer. Like everybody kind of looked like what they were supposed to do. Roger's always holding his shield, and they're doing it unconsciously. That's what's even better. It's really, it's kind of hilarious. But not everybody does the physical thing. I think this is just no different. I mean, what am I saying? It is different than theater on stage, but it's the same principle. You have to embody this character completely, even if it's 2 lines. You have to absolutely believe. This is like acting 101, but you have to believe you're in the situation. You have to be in the scene, even doing what they were doing. Were we digging? Okay, so I'm digging. Well, maybe I'm more in shape. Okay, maybe that's not a big deal for me to dig. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm always embarrassed because I'm always running, and I run and as my characters, even if I'm a superhero, I'm running like I run. So I'm like, and they're like, "Can you make him like in better shape?" I'm like,
Fred, I think Superman is in a little bit better shape than that right now.
Hold on here.
Pull back a bit.
Okay.
Can you just pull.
Hold on a second.
Yeah. Take your time. Take your time.
Okay, hold
It's
on.
fine.
Okay, back, guys.
All right.
Take
Yes.
it easy. By the way, I'm friends with you and Jack Black, and the first time I met Mick, it freaked me out. When you did Jack Black.
I mean, I don't know why. It's so crazy. I don't sound a thing like him.
Okay.
I don't look like him either. Especially when I'm impersonating him. Ever.
So funny. But yeah, so anyway, those so physical embodiments help, and also it will help you remember the character. A lot of times you're going to go back to a scene you were doing cop number 5 and they want cop number 5 again. Hopefully they will have reference for you. If not, try to have references for yourself just to remember. For me, I would say the thing that I forget, I never forget the soul of the character, which is really what we're talking about. It's not only a physical manifestation of your throat, but acting is a spiritual kind of or a psychological kind of thing where you really are embodying this character. I sometimes forget the pitch. Like I forget how high or low I was.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, was he up here or was he down here? You know, like, oh, he was more up here. I forgot about that. I made him like that guy, you know. But I sort of remember the rhythm. I just have to cue into the pitch. And so never be afraid to ask for reference.
Ever.
Or anything, because that, believe me, because if you don't have reference, I mean, I had one time where we said, we don't have reference, and I did the thing and had to go back and redo it because it didn't sound like my previous, and they were fine.
Previous guy, yeah.
But it happens if you don't remember,
100%. There's a character I'm playing right now in a show that's in production that I can only marginally talk about because this could be semi-announced.
Right.
But every time I go in for a session with this character, I usually get a reference because he's up here in this kind of register, but he's not all the way up here. He's not like this little thing. Yeah. So my temptation is always to put him up here. Come on, guys, what are you doing? And then they'll play the reference, and I'm doing it like this. It's like, oh, what are you doing? And
exactly. That's exactly. But yeah. So you found where it is in your throat. Sometimes the physical thing will help you remember the guy. And so those are clues. Again, finding the character it's a lot like if you were a designer. You have to imagine, look at your assumptions. Look at your assumptions. What are the parameters that we're allowed to explore within this character? And you are completely allowed to ask. Absolutely. They love it if you ask. Come in with ideas. Like Mick said, if you have guy number 7, sometimes I know I'm like, I can tell I'm going to like guy number 7. Or like I'm going to like,
there's this guy. It's like a Stephen Root ripoff.
There's guys I know I go to a lot.
Sort of a British, that whatever it is.
People that you're comfortable in. We'll explore this in a minute, but like those are great. But then you can do combos, and you can mix them up a little bit. And the more I would say, and I still do this, the big recommendation is record yourselves, hear yourselves, practice. Do it just on your phone. Just get a memo and just start riffing as a character. If you hear a voice you heard on a train, or something. I think, who was it? Davy Jones, Bill Knight. I think he said Davy Jones was based on somebody he saw, a Scottish guy on a train.
Really?
Yeah, and he was a terrifying guy. But he was
that's awesome.
That's where do you fear death?
Yes.
No, you're a liar. But he, just you see, like anything as an artist, you're grabbing and taking everything, Sometimes people will recognize it and say, hey, man, Freddie's doing me. Like sometimes people will know But
That's right, Bill Farmer. People will recognize that.
Hell, I'll tell you.
I tell you.
I love Bill. Bill's another one, you guys, he's the master. But
Well, I'll tell you, when it comes to utility, and I'm sorry to interrupt your train of thought here, Freddie, but when it comes to utility, the other thing I want to give everybody in the room permission is, especially when you're doing crowd scenes and additional characters that just have to be covered, like everything's fair game.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've used this Fred sound that I picked up on Kung Fu Panda Legends of Awesomeness when I've had to play a big beefy guard, because my voice isn't naturally beefy.
Yeah, but Mick, man, I can't tell you how many times I got, learned from you and doing like, hey, man, what's going on?
Hey,
all right. That's
it's all fair game.
You do. You learn. Anyway, do you want to dive? There's obviously we can go on and on. Do you want to show some examples, or
why don't we get some questions, and then I'd love to demonstrate some examples as well.
Perfect. So actually, you just answered a little bit of one of them, but I want to lead in with this question first, since we were just trailing off it. An anonymous user says, a lot of emphasis is put on improv, but how important is it to just get in the booth to explore your instrument to find placement or tone? Is this a skill that would benefit from daily or weekly practice?
You want me to field that one, or I'll just say
go for it.
Answer yes to all. Improv is an incredible tool. And if you can learn and get into some improv groups or classes, even more importantly, I say it really helps. Why improv is so great is it's a place to discover creativity. Mm-hmm. It's an actor's medium. Remember, too, you don't want to go off the page. It's very important to always give as written, unless they tell you not to. Always do honor the word, like Mick said, or not yet. He hasn't said it yet, but the script is
like
king.
I'm about to say. I'm sure
the script is king. Basically,
I did say that. I said that.
Yeah, you said that. Why am I saying these words? Why is this character have to say this? In theater, it's great because by the time you have it all memorized and it's in your body, you know exactly why you're saying this. Sometimes you're just getting the script fresh. And you have to figure out what is the intention of me actually having to say this. Sometimes it's just exposition. I can't tell you how many times I have to be the guy who's like, "That's right, and it's your daughter who I adopted that time, and she thought you were dead." You're like, why? I'm Mr. Exposition. I'm like, and that's why we're going to pick up the jewels. It's like, okay, yeah. Why did they write this line? But that being said, give yourself some space, and they will like you to, depending on the show, especially if it's comedy, improv. I find that most comedy animations love improv. Video games less so, because the lines have to hook up. You have to be pretty precise, micro-directed on unless it's a cut scene, unless it's a cinematic. They really like it to be straight. Also, some of the superhero stuff has to kind of be Bible. They don't like me to go too far. But on Star Trek, for example, we're allowed, like on Lower Decks, it's a comedy. My character is odd. We just make up. It's so funny already as written, and they like you to spin off. The writers are sitting there trying to come up with more stuff. So, yes, in answer to your question, and I say daily practice, I think it's very good to delve into it. You don't have to be good. Some of the best improvs, and Mick and I have done a ton of improv together. Some of the best have failed improv bits, and they're funny, but it's the idea of allowing you the license to explore. It's very, very important. Mick, did you want to field that question?
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say too is the better you know your instrument, the better you're going to play it. I mean, that's why I cling to like this musical instrument analogy. And I know not all of us in the room are musicians. I'm not. I don't play an instrument. I barely vocalize in terms of singing. But like, there's something analogous there. Like if everyone in this room who wanted to be a voiceover actor wanted to be a professional guitarist, let's say this was a lecture on playing. Being a session musician for professional guitar, like this. Then let me ask you, the people who are going to make it are probably not the people who are asking, am I spending too much time with my guitar? I think it's always a valid question. There are no stupid questions. It's always valid to say, how much time should I spend? What should I be looking at? And treat it like it's a musical instrument. Like, you work with that instrument until you have mastered it.
You're a lyricist.
Yeah. And the more you discover about what you can do and how consistent you can make those choices, the better you're going to be prepped for this career. So there's never like too much time. I mean, unless you're letting the rest of your life go. I'm a big believer in be a balanced person, but when it comes to like, am I going to invest in my career today, or am I going to, play some PlayStation 5? First of all, try to do both. But secondly, if you don't have time to do both, spend time with your instrument, figuring out what you can do. 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day, that's nothing. The people who master this craft, the people who end up in Fred's chair, they're doing this all the time, even when they don't even realize it. Fred was playing with his voice earlier tonight, and he didn't even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, and it's fun. People will think you're crazy. Be careful where you do it, because I found that I'm practicing stuff sometimes, and I realize I'm doing it a little bit out loud, and people, you might be like a little weird. Like if you're like, somewhere in public, and you're like, huh.
Yeah, that sounds good. Or,
Whatever. People are like, do you talk like that? You're like, oh, no, sorry. Like, or vocal warm-ups and warm-downs. People might think that's weird. It's nice to do it in the privacy of your own. You wouldn't necessarily play your guitar out everywhere. Maybe you would if you're performing.
But if you control somebody at a drive-thru by ordering like this, I think I'd like number 1, please, with extra cheese, then do it. Why not?
No,
they're never going to see you again. They don't know you're not from England.
No, the problem is whenever I've done that, I end up seeing that person again, and then you're a crazy person. You end up being you're not British. No, if you go through drive-thru, just go. Do that. Then that.
Oh, they'll love that.
They love that.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
They're not working or anything. They're not trying to get through customers.
Not at all. No, don't waste anyone's time. And don't prank call people anymore.
No, no Jerky Boys action for those of you who get that
I love
reference.
the Jerky Boys, but
We have a few more questions. Did you want to do a few more? Yeah.
let's
The
do
next
a few
one.
more each again. I want to get everyone answered.
All right, our next one's from Kat, and they ask, is there such a thing as asking for too much detail when the director asks for something, and are you uncertain what that particular direction means?
It is, okay, a two-parter. When you are uncertain, I think it's okay to say that you're not sure. Clarity is really important. It's very, very, they want to communicate to you. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you might get I've heard of toxic situations where the director might be tough. It happens less so in this particular world, but it can come every now and then. You might have, I can see there's miscommunications. If you're just gentle about it and kind and just saying, I'm sorry, remember, you're a problem solver. You want to give them what they want. Right. And maybe even exceed it. So how do I get there? What I'm here for you. It's not even my issue anymore. How can I serve this project? And so ask. It's very important. Is there too much detail? It depends on who you ask. I am one of those people that love every bit of knowledge. There are some actors who hate, like, why do I have to read all of this for Captain, let's go. Especially on those really elaborate stories where it's like, these are the Methanons who are from the planet blah, 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 and their kingdom had died.
I tend to be that guy. I'm not always, but I do tend to be that guy.
Yeah, exactly. So, but if you're the actor and you're asking, read the room. There are times when you can see they're under a time constraint. So I try not to get too esoteric with my questions. There are times when the writer appreciates the questions. For example, you're the ghost, and I'd say, or the vampire. Well, what era is he from? Vampires aren't just, is he a vampire like from the vampire world? Is he a Nosferatu? Is he in 1800s? And writers will go, that's a good question. I never thought about that. And then they go, yeah, let's make him from the 1800s, American. And that'll define the performance.
Very Anne Rice.
I know, I know. I totally went typical, didn't I? Yeah, he's a '90s rapper vampire. No, so like, so
not just a rapper, a
no,
90s rapper
90s.
vampire.
Yeah, that's when he was turned, and he never went back to. Anyway, it's a whole story.
I only suck blood, and I'm here to say.
MC sucker. No, I answer your question. I think it's exploratory. If it's really good to look up. If you have to play Iron Man, look up Iron Man. Look up who Tony Stark is. Learn as much as you can about the lore. That doesn't mean they're going to stick to that lore, by the way.
Correct.
You know what I mean? They may go, no, I don't want that. But it informs you. So answer to your question, no. I think it's good to ask and just read it. If you're going too far, they'll steer you away. They'll say, let's just stick to the scene.
By way of counterpoint, I also want to give everyone in the room permission to recognize what job their character has to do in the script and to just do that job. I mean, sometimes you literally are just there to set up the gag. You just have to get the, who is that?
Yeah.
And your only line is, who is that? You could say it any way you want. But if you don't say that, then we don't get the punchline that our main character's going to say. And it's okay to recognize, hey, I'm just there to set up the gag. So it's not time for me to make it my moment.
Yeah.
I do want to be a full-fledged character. I do want to be believable. Yeah. But the best way to be believable in that scenario is to do your job and get out of there.
Dude, that is Family Guy and Robot Chicken right there for me. It was like literally they want voice matches really well, but no, they are like, it's like drumming. They set up the joke and you have to really get it. Get the joke. That's a great point, Mick. Know that, like, okay, I'm here for the gag. Or like I was joking earlier, I'm here for the exposition. Mm-hmm. That's really it. Yeah. So
everybody's got a job.
Know why you're saying these lines and what purpose that character has is a huge.
Plus, for those of us who were up and coming, because I'm probably closer to that arc than maybe Fred is, because I'm newer to this than Fred is. But we get to this desperation point where, like, what do I do to book? Oh my gosh, I've got to book this role, and I've got to make my audition pop, and I've got to stand out, and I've got to make sure that the casting director's hearing something different. I've got to
still doing that.
Don't I have to use my moment? I have to use my moment. And you're auditioning for guy number 3, and guy number 3 is literally there just for one gag. But they got to have somebody to fill it, and the casting director decided to send out sides to everyone just to find guy number 3, because it does happen. A lot of times with adult comedy, you'll get your cast regulars or casts from comedians and their friends, but the ancillaries, they don't go out offer. They will send it. They'll say, here's a packet of all the ancillaries for season 1, and we need somebody who can play at least 5 of these guys. Mm-hmm. And when you're playing those 5 different guys in your audition, you're not going to be able to make every moment shine the way that you think you will you'll need to book it. That's where recognizing what the job is. Oh, these are background characters that are simply there to be a visual gag for the viewer to undermine what the main character's saying right now. So as long as I'm playing this gag, the rest of the backstory can be anything I want it to be, and it doesn't have to be exactly right. It just has to be real and committed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. We have another question from Angelo, and they ask, how do you find the fine line between being too physical and not physical enough, especially in very physically demanding scenes like fights or brawls or running away with your tail between your legs?
Okay, let me field this, Fred, and then I'll hand it over to you. Only because my answer's pretty short. The number one thing you don't want to do is make noise. That's your bottom line. If the activity that you're doing in front of that microphone is making any kind of noise, clapping, slapping your knees, jangling your clothes, bouncy jewelry, rubbing your hands, whatever it is that you're doing, snapping your fingers, that's going to ruin the take. That's your number one, like, I know I can't cross that line. That's the line you can never cross. Now within that, you've got varying different stages that you can go to, and it depends on what kind of actor you are, how physical you feel like you have to be, and what the moment calls for. And I'll let Fred expand more on that. But I will say this, that I have found it's very helpful for me to try to do a sound that is specific to each action. So we did Kung Fu Panda Legends of Awesomeness together, and when my director would ask for fights, I mean, I would literally read what the action description was. Po jumps backwards, lands on his feet, does a double kick, turns around and punches the guy behind him, and I would choreograph that in my brain and give a sound for each thing.
And a sound named Wuta would come out. Wuta would come out, just like when Hulk does the thunderclap. I don't know why became the thing for a thunderclap. Again, don't make noise. Be careful. Don't wear your jewelry and your clothing. Wear quiet clothes. Be careful of your breath. I know some people, the finest, like Rob Paulson. Here's a golfer, man. He does all this activity. He is just on the mic. Be careful getting off mic too far. That's a big problem for a lot of people who move a lot. Of course, be careful of people that are nearby you. Don't hit or knock over. I've knocked over trays. And I remember one time I knocked over this whole bunch of liquids on the floor, and there's a whole Japanese clientele, and I just bowed, like, they're all applauding,
He just bows.
Yeah, you're just like, I made such a destruction. Yeah, just be careful of yourself, and don't let the physical activity overtake your breath. A lot of times people are like, I'm fighting, and it's like, no, you can, depending on the level of whatever the fighter is or whatever you're taking damage. So just stay on mic, careful, don't let the physical activity overtake your voice.
Right.
And, don't make noise and beware of your surroundings.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, thank you guys. Did you want to continue on with the lecture, or do you want to answer some more questions?
Is there? What do you want to do, Mick? Is there more questions? Or are we good?
Well, I want to actually dive into this. Dive into the. I mean, we've only got a few minutes left, but I'd love to dive into what you just talked about in terms of effort. So, Fred, let's say your line is, "What do you want now?" You're in an action cartoon, right? It's Avengers or something.
Okay.
And your character. And the reason I want to do this is there's actually a couple of different ways you can handle this depending on what your director wants. That's the other thing, is that your director is there to help guide how much effort they need. So I might say, so Fred, your middle of combat, your line is, what do you want now? And I want you to punch him on the word now.
Now. And who am I? What character am I?
Let's say you're the Hulk, just for ease.
Hulk? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he would be, I already know Hulk is probably annoyed. So, about that. What do you want now? So
Good. Now punch him before you say, what do you want now?
What do you want now?
See, you've got two different options there. And we could put that punch anywhere. Now, Hulk, punch him after, what do you want now? Just in case we need it there.
What do you want now?
Good. Now, the reason you would get 3 takes like that is if the director and the people staging it, the writer, the showrunner, the storyboard artist who might be in the room, if they've mapped it out, but they're not sure where they want that punch to land, you as the actor have the opportunity to give them, a couple of different options, because people do action while they talk. They don't just do action and then say their lines.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you tying it together and being able to adjust like that. I mean, there were times we were in Avengers and, I'm doing Iron Man, which is like this for me for Marvel animation. And I would go in there and I'd go, hold it right there. And Colette Sunderman would be like, we'll get the efforts after. Just give me dialogue. I just want dialogue. Hold it right there. And then we'll come back and do a second pass, and she'll go, okay, I need Captain America holds up the shield, Iron Man punches it, and then it reverberates and sends him flying backwards. Okay, we need a take of that. We'll call this line 8A, go. And Cap will do his side, then I'll do my side, and they'll get them all clean. So, yeah.
That's good. That's a good point. Yeah.
The director will guide you in terms of how they like to get it recorded and how the showrunner likes to get it recorded.
They're really the conductor.
They really are.
They're like more, stop.
Yep.
Okay, softer now.
Yep.
And that's kind of, that's a big part of it, is knowing how to read that. And say, okay, how can I make that my own?
So Fred, as we're exploring like what it is to be a versatility actor, you and I were talking a little bit yesterday about in prep for this, like what.
Oh, here, let me turn up my gain. Sorry.
What kind of, what kind of.
Hello. Okay.
Yeah, that's much better.
Thank
what kind
you.
of like choices you can use to change something up? Like when Andrea Romano says, "That's great. What else you got?"
Mm-hmm.
Give me something different. And we talked about what can make the difference between two characters.
Right.
When you are approached with that, where do you typically start from?
Usually a question like, okay, are you talking about like for let's say cop number 2, or are you talking about like for an actual character that I know really well?
No, for like cop number 2.
Oh, okay.
Let's say you came in with your gym bro guy, and he was like, "I'm the cop that talks like this because I work out in my spare time."
Yeah.
But they're like, "We don't want that. We want something else."
Yeah.
How do you begin?
Two things I asked. One is, where is he from? Where do you want him? Do you care where he's from? Are we in Chicago? Not to say that everyone from Chicago is going to sound a certain way,
Right. But it's a touchstone.
I need a touchstone. I'll say, okay, how high or low? A lot of times they want you to change up because, let's just say John DiMaggio's in the same scene, and he's like doing, and I sound like John. There are a lot of times if I know, I'm using him as an example because he and I cross our voices a lot. Is if he knows I'm in a scene with him, or we'll ask each other, like, where are you going with this? That way we're both not like, hey, what's going on? I don't know. All right. Like it just two guys that sound too much alike. You might want to know what color what color are you in the scene? Like what, in the painting. Oh, you need someone who's a little more, is this cop, we're using a lot of cops tonight. Is this a cop who's really good at his job? Is he really kind of like, you want me to lighten him up? Usually it's a pitch thing. You want me to go higher? How old is he? That's another one. A lot of times, like, everyone, general 30s, it's like, well, that's an age. But, me being like 30 might be over here, and he's like a 50-year-old cop, might just be a little bit older. And then I age him a little bit more into his 70s, and you should have seen it when I used to patrol this area. And then I get a little older. I'm not really sure what happens after that. And then as you get a little older, so you can you start to figure out where, and again, that's a technical thing. The age is the rasp and where it lies in my throat. Mm-hmm. The younger I get, the higher up my vibration in my face goes. Oh my God, really? That's so cool. And I'm a little bit higher up, maybe I've young up just a little bit. I mean, I'm never going to be playing the 15-year-old. I mean, unless it's the 15-year-old who's like this. I'm not, there are certain areas I'm not.
I see Zemo.
Look at this. This is my range. He does all the voices.
Hi, Zemo.
Can you do weird sound you do? Can you do your sound?
Yay!
He's doing sounds. It's
that was awesome. I love it.
I love you. We're talking to people now. Okay. So, anyway, come on and hang out. Anyway, he's my teacher. So again,
with age.
Pitch, age. So pitch meaning high or low, age, size, regionalism, ability. I know that sounds crazy, but there's some people who are really good at their jobs and some that are not good. Is he a lazy cop? Is he like, ma'am, you have to, ma'am, you can't park here. There's that guy. Or it's like, I'm sorry, ma'am, you can't park here. Is he a good cop? Is he bad? I mean, not good or bad. Those are general. Well, again, thumbnail.
Is he I think. I mean, we were using cop here, but this actually applies to any archetype. One of the things that you can do is you think about, like, what box is this character in? And then you say, well, how else could I play that box? So let's say you've got you came in with the really angry cop, and the lines are really angry, but they come back and say, we don't want it too shouty. We can't have the scene shouty all the time. Then you play the guy who took anger management classes and is really trying not to yell. Right?
By the way, this is kind of a side note, but this is a brilliant thing. For some reason, there's something about playing against the emotion that works really well. Like trying not to be angry. Okay. You know, or my favorite, and I don't mean to genderize this because everybody does this, but it's the man cry. Why do some guys get upset that they're going to cry? Like, Mick. Mick, oh man, Mick, I want you to know, I'm not kidding, okay? You know, like, there's something about like, why do we fight? You're like, I wasn't gonna do this. Guys get so mad when they get emotional.
So mad.
I mean, I'm not to put a gender up, but I'm just saying, it just cracks me up. Those are things you can play against type, and again, intelligence level. How I know that sounds terrible classification, but how smart is he? Is he a really smart detective who knows what's what? Or is he, no, hold on here, I'm just going to...
Or is he lazy? Or is
he just like, yeah, I don't really know what's going on? And, you know, and again, with all these broad brushstrokes, remember, you're not playing a villain or a hero. Or you are, but very few bad guys think they're bad. You know, if you're going to play a gangster, maybe he thinks I'm a really good, I'm a good soldier. I'm making money. I'm protecting the people I like. You know, all of a sudden, he's a three-dimensional sort of guy, and it's like you might make, as a director, might say, he's not, let's make him from somewhere else.
Yeah, I love your Italian mobster thing, but it's way overdone, Fred, these days. So we actually were thinking more like British hooligan. Can you give me a British hooligan?
You just sort of change it up here, and do you have any idea who I am? Do you? Yeah, and it totally changed, but it's the same spirit, isn't it? It's the same guy, but it's just in a different place. The same bloke exists everywhere, you know?
Yeah,
it could
absolutely.
be another guy from some other place, man. You know, and it just, so those are things to play with. So I would say in your studies, regionalisms, dialects, just get comfortable with them. I mean, again, that's an endless thing, and the worst thing that happens to my friends who are, oh God, he's pressing the buttons.
Zemo, no!
I come in and my set is all like, what happened? Hold on, buddy. When someone who truly is Cockney, or it comes in and does the real Cockney thing, like, yeah, no, can you just not? They want a real British thing, and then they hear it and they're like, I don't understand you. It kills me
every time.
I mean, when someone's like, you really want a real Scotsman? You know,
if you want a real Scotsman, you'll get one, and you won't understand that damn word that comes out of his mouth.
What I said. I know they didn't understand what I say. You know, and it's like, yeah. And you and I have mutual friends that go through this all the time.
All the time.
You know, you wanted Welsh. No, he didn't know. Anyway, sorry.
We didn't know you couldn't understand the Welsh.
Exactly. Was there any other? I know. How are we doing? I'm good to go
already.
over,
Okay, yeah. So we are running
Mick,
a little bit out,
you.
but if you guys need to head out, that's totally fine. But if you want to do a little bit of a lightning round, we can do that.
Yeah, let's do a lightning round of questions. We'll try to limit our answers because Fred and I both like to talk, right, Fred?
Yeah, and I'll shut up. Yeah.
But yeah, let's try to close out with some last minute questions and go from there.
Okay, so an anonymous person says, is there a good resource for pinpointing or figuring out what your voice print is?
I know who you are, Anonymous. No, I'm just kidding. Anonymous Jones. Is there a good place, Mick, do you have an answer to that?
Or exercises or anything?
What I would say is it really depends on the all-important playback. And honestly, ask your friends, and those of you who are pursuing voice acting, I'm sure you're in classes and or other community structures, whether it's a workout group or a networking accountability group or just a group of friends that all want to do this. Ask each other, like, what quality does my voice have? Utilize the resources that are at your disposal. I've asked friends of mine who are directors, when we're not working on a project, when we are just shooting the breeze and we're having beers or whatever, hey, you know, what should I be going out for here? Because I feel like my voice is X, but I've only really done voice match in Y area, so what do you think? And they'll tell me what they think, and it will be really helpful. Third-party perspective is super helpful. I wish that there was some place that was like, identifyyourvoice.com, but
I'm sure there will be. No, it is helpful, and it's fun to explore what that is. One fun exercise. I totally agree with that. I just say one exercise. It's really fun from an acting point of view. Is do what you think people think you sound like. Like do an exaggeration of yourself, and then do the opposite of yourself, and you sort of will find. Like when people impersonate me, they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm kind of a big goofy guy, Sometimes if I have to go the opposite way, I'm a little more organized and quiet, and those gives you like some acting parameters. But yeah, find
100%.
I agree with just play back, hear yourself a lot, and see where you're comfortable and where it lies.
Get comfortable hearing your own voice. I can't tell you how many people, myself included, have said, "I hate hearing myself on tape." Or I hate hearing playback of my own voice. Right? Of course you do, because what you're hearing is the resident. See, I said I was going to stop talking, and I didn't.
No, but this is a really big thing. I know.
But what you're hearing is the resonation of your voice inside your skull. You're hearing from behind your eardrums. The voice that is on a recording is what everyone else is hearing, and you just have to get used to it. You just have to get used to not being so critical of yourself.
Oh, it's awful because I can hear. I hate the way I talk sometimes. Like I don't make sense. Like I'll hear myself. I'll do and now your destruction will be complete. Was it kind of what you wanted? Is that right? It's just it just always sounds so like, what did I? Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
All right, so
next question.
Yeah, so Judy asks, when you max out a certain parameter like a pitch or texture or the ability to age up and down, how do you respond when the request is for more?
Yeah.
When you say max out, Judy, I have to ask you, what do you mean? Meaning I don't have any more of it?
Probably like when the director asks you to go higher pitch or lower pitch or past your extremes.
Got to tell you, that's a nightmare.
It is a nightmare.
Always try to pick a character that you can do sustained for 4 hours. I know that's impossible. Sometimes you're just stuck doing this guy. The more experience you get, the more you'll say, I got about 4 of those left in me, guys.
Yeah. That's where your experience in the booth and your willingness to kindly put a boundary up. And again, you don't have to be a jerk about it, but like Fred said, I've only got a couple more of those in me, or this is really hard on my throat. Can we take a break and can I have some ointment?
Yes, and so drink lots of water and good medicines for your voice. Treat yourself. Remember, it's like doing stunts. Be kind to yourself in those situations. I know what you mean. It is one of the hazards of this job, is doing something and all of a sudden you're like, oh, wow, I shouldn't have gone to that football game last. Oh man, I don't know. I'll keep trying. And remember, you give it the try. Don't damage yourself, and know that sometimes there are pickups, and that when your voice is in good shape, they'll come back and get you again.
That's right.
But I know what you're saying. Practicing will help that.
Yeah.
I'm serious. The more you practice, the more you'll be able to sustain certain things. But boy, I know it's nuts. They have you yell and then they say, "Oh, this part's singing."
That happens to me all the time on the show that I'm recording right now. They're like, okay, we're going to do 7 episodes plus pickups of this character that yells the whole time, and then we'll get to the song.
I don't know why they do that. They bring the composers in at the end.
At the end? What are you doing?
I know. And singing, by the way, improv and singing are very good things to learn, because this is very much like a singing profession. In fact, this profession asks you to sing a lot in character. So that's a thing. You don't have to be an opera star, but just know how to. It helps, and it helps you understand breath too. Anyway,
100%.
Sorry. So nightmare, yes.
So we have from Walter, and they ask, what helped you both get noticed with your considerable talents to those who could hire you for work? Any advice you have for all these VO artists who have been in the hamster wheels auditioning for years on our end? Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Mick, you have anything for that? That's a hard one.
There's just no way around the grind. That's the hard, true answer. There's just no way around the grind. And we live in an age right now where you can get access to casting directors in ways that maybe weren't available before the mid-2000s. I know we all got to be careful of pay-to-play opportunities. You don't want to be spending your money to on every workshop that's out there. But when you do see a casting director you've never worked with before, get a seat in that class if you can. Because if you're that good and it's just a matter of the opportunity, and even if you're not that good, but you're that experienced, you're that mature in your pursuit of this, and you are well educated and you are well skilled, go show what you got. And the other thing too is if you get the choice to choose your own copy, choose something you can showcase with. And here's why. There are gigs that you will just book to keep the lights on. And if you can show a casting director in a casting director night, oh, he's my young hero. That's the guy that's where I'd use him every day. Or you're like Fred, oh, he's clearly a utility guy, character actor. I absolutely want to use him that way. If you can showcase that, if you get the choice of sides to pick, go with strength first, especially when you're in a casting director workshop, because that's how casting happens now. It's how can we use him today, and then if we're lucky, we'll also get Villager number 3 and the mayor also out of this guy if we need to. But we're probably going to bring in Fred and Kevin Michael Richardson and maybe Mick Wingert to cover some of those. But we're just looking for series regular, and he has to have a certain sound. And usually if you have that sound, work that sound in front of a casting director. Then I would say, and then I'll shut up. The other thing I would say is when you're in educational opportunities, when you're not showcasing, when it's not a casting director night, when you're taking a class, use every opportunity you can to explore the rest of that range. That's where you get into the creative stuff. When you're taking longer form classes, when you're doing one-day intensives, when you're working with pros like Fred or myself, we're not in a position to cast you. We're just here to help you develop your instrument. Go balls to the wall, right? Just go for it. See everything you can do. Take risks, take chances. But casting directors, sometimes we just got to pay to get in front of them. And when you do, show them your best foot forward. Least amount of effort, most credibility. That's the sweet spot.
Boy, that's good. Yeah, take on jobs. I mean, I got into this business to do comedy and music and all this stuff and acting. But I really was video games. I joke. I said I yelled my way on to the set, because nobody really wanted to. They didn't know who I was. When you have Kevin Michael Richardson or John DiMaggio, why do I need another guy? I got Maurice. Why do I need another? And you just start to get in front of them. They see two things. They see, again, your willingness, your work ethic to go for it. And also be directable again, meaning like be putty in their hands. They want to see it's not just that you're a good actor and you're a voice actor, you have a great voice. They want to be able to see that you can change on the fly. They want to see like all of a sudden the writer says, no, he's not doing that. Oh, can you do this other character? They want you have to really be in the yes and let's go. Mode. So I wish there was a nice answer to that. Like, the steps to become a lawyer. You go to school, you get the degree, you become a clerk. This one, there's a million ways in because it's the circus.
It really
is. Shape-shifting circus performers. And so you have to kind of by hook or by crook, but don't involve law enforcement, or certainly none of the police that we've been voicing. Just like try
What
to.
are you talking about, Fred?
To perform crime.
Where are you going with this?
No, I'm saying is, no, you really do have to just keep. I know. You just. Sorry, here we go. You do have to. Yeah, you got to pay off people. Come on. No. Yeah. Just keep going in and audition like crazy. That's really it.
And work as much as you can. Work as
I
much as you can.
wish there was a better answer, but that's really it. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
We have one
Learn
from
your
Lawrence, and
I
they
think
ask,
this will probably need to be, at least for me, the last question. Because I'm running out of time. But
Okay, Mick, you're awesome. Thanks.
of
Lawrence.
course.
they ask, with preconceived characters and utility, how can this also apply to creatures and transformations?
Oh, great. You first, Fred.
Okay,
you
'cause I know
do
you got
far
to go.
more creatures than I do.
No. It's the same difference. It really is. Remember, creatures and monsters, they don't see themselves as such. They're just a particular species of something. So it's that goes into another realm. Again, we're talking about voice placement. You start to come up with tricks of certain characters that might be this, or is he a liquidy character, or is he all of those things? You have to ask the same question. What is the Balrog? No, what is the creature? How smart are they? What do they want? Are they just protecting their children? Are they really ferocious? Are they cruel? Are they like, find out what makes them tick. Same thing, pictures, wonderful. Pictures will inform you. Corey Burton showed me this when we used to play a lot of creatures together. You know, he'd look at the mouth and was like, oh, this is more of a spider mandible type thing. So you start to kind of turn on your D. Bradley Baker moment. You know, you kind of get into your, like, you start to that'll inform you. So again, questions and finding out. My son's playing. What are the different creatures in the show, and you want to keep them consistent and not the same. So let's say you're playing a bear, a spider, and a sea dragon. Make them very distinct. You know, and then again on your own, and people will think you're crazy, and yes, I do. I practice, and now I got a partner here who does the same thing. So
it's about playing in creativity, and like Fred said, it's asking the good questions. I was on one indie this is the only thing I'll add. I was on an indie cartoon where it was a very limited cast, limited budget, and they had several of us doing monster duty every week, because the whole trope was like the bad guy had the ability to turn inanimate objects into creatures. So the question for me every week. What's that?
Mini Force?
No.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
The question for me every week was, well, what is this creature made out of? Is he the lava creature? Is he the water creature? Is he the stone creature? Yeah, the stone creature might sound more like rocks rubbing together, right? And
The water creature might sound,
flowing all over the place. It's about playing with your instrument, playing with your articulators, finding ways to make sounds like that little spider chitter thing that Fred just did. I don't know how to do that, and I want to know.
And
so,
yeah.
but you explore. It's, there's no other way to say it, and so take it literally for its meaning, not for the innuendo. But you've got to explore your body. Mm-hmm. You got to find out what your instrument can do. You can find out everything that you can do with your mask, your placement, your articulators, your throat, the tension, the support, the breath. All of those things can be pulled together. Like one guy I know, again, I think you mentioned him, Fred, Brock Powell, does incredible creature voices, and I had him on a pilot presentation that we were doing for an independent animator, and he had to play basically a deer, like a big elk that had become anthropomorphic, and so he was working on how an elk breathes, and he had this like kind of a sound like he was snorting like a buck. It was, and just the specificity of emulating those sounds and exploring what his instrument could do. Yeah. So you just got to know. There's only one way to know.
That's Frank Welkerian. Yeah,
that's right. Play around.
Yeah, and in fact, that's a really good point. If you guys are into monsters and creatures, try to listen to a lot of different real animals and see what sounds come out. Sometimes you'll be asked to play an ape-like character. You'll be asked to play a lupine, a wolf, or a cow, or a jellyfish that you'll have to make up. So definitely, buddy, I love you. I'm getting a music
I love you.
theme
Get
here.
out. Get out.
Anyway, yeah. So you'll have to definitely listen to animals and see if you can impersonate them. You don't have to be the whisperer. Just get what is equine? What is horse-like?
Well, thank you guys so much for your time. Unfortunately, this is all we have for today, but thank you both, Fred and Mick, for coming out. Thanks for everyone in our audience. Hopefully we can get you guys back again, because you guys have so much wisdom and work so well together.
Oh, It's
Thanks.
an honor, Mick. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure, Fred.
Thank you, man.
You didn't need me, but I'm so glad I got to be here.
Need
Thank you.
In fact, next time if we ever do this again, Mick brought some great scripts, and I wanted to show like how directability. We kind of did it a little bit, but you guys have great questions. It is such an honor. I hope we were of service to you.
Thanks,
So,
everybody.
please,
Thank you so much for attending
yeah.
tonight.
You guys are awesome.
And once again, thank you so much, everyone that came out in the chat tonight. Hopefully we can get them back again, but if not, be on the lookout at Help Network on our socials and our website. Hopefully we can get them and more guests to come speak to you all. If not, thank you guys so much for now. Have a lovely evening. Take care, everyone.
You guys have a great
Good night.
evening. Thank you, Eddie.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Night.